Hey everyone, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Hey, today what I wanted to talk about was playing through changes and how to start playing through changes. And I'm not talking really complex changes like jazz changes or something like that. I'm talking just like pop changes to be able to be melodic and be able to play melodic lines through pop changes. Now that's a harder thing than you might think. It's a really easy thing just to wander on some pentatonics or something like that. You play your favorite riffs, but you're not really making real melody. So one of the things, and I did a video not too long ago on this called target tones, hitting your target. That's really an important video, and you can find all kinds of great videos about that online. But anyhow, what I wanted to talk about today is how to practice this stuff to get good at it. So in order to do that, I'm going to take a common progression, one that we've all heard a million times before. And it's actually a song, but I'm not going to name the song because I think they might pull my video down if I do. But if I was playing through some changes like this. So you all know where I'm going with this. So that can be a very complicated thing to do because if you just play through, as soon as you hit this chord, all of a sudden those notes don't work anymore and you're kind of lost where to go. So one of the things that I think is really important to do as a player is try to break stuff down into digestible chunks, I'll say. So you try to break it down into smaller areas and work on those smaller areas. Once you get a smaller area taken care of, then you move on to the next area and you do small area there, and then you stick them both together. So for instance, in this particular song, if I'm going from B minor to an F sharp major, A major, E major, G major. So instead of going through all of those changes and trying to figure out all of that stuff in my mind, I'm going to isolate and I'm going to start with just two of the changes. B minor to that F sharp. And that is much more complex than what you might think. So what I'm going to do to start this off is I'm going to sort of give tiers of playing. So we're going to work our way through. And what you try to do initially is you limit both chord tones and you limit things rhythmically. So if you limit things with chord tones, only playing certain scales or chords or whatever arpeggios you want to use over them. And then you can also limit, like, play eighth notes only or something. That's much harder to do than you might think. So I'm going to do this for a little bit. I'm going to show you some ideas on this. The first thing we want to know, though, and the most important thing, are your chord tones themselves. So we're going to start off with just the arpeggio tones, and I'm going to just stick this in one position. Now, when we're playing pentatonic, we're basically playing out of 5 different positions. So you need to know your positions in your pentatonic. I'm basically in D major. And you want to know all of those really well and really quickly. And if you don't, you need to practice those. My first 2 systems of my daily workout, not to make this a sales pitch, but they're really good at getting your 5 pentatonics really down. And they'll really help you. If you just go through systems 1 and 2, you'll know your pentatonics inside and out if you actually do the work on it. Okay, so if I just looked at one of these positions, so I would call this the G position of the D major, or it's the most popular position in that minor pentatonic, all right? So I'm going to go through, and on the D, or on the B minor, I just want to play chord tones. Root, 3rd, 5th. Root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, okay? And then on the F sharp, I'm going to do, I'll start from the root just to make it easy. So root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, and then if I come all my way back down, I can go down to those 2 notes. So all right, and to do this, I'm going to go through with just with the changes behind me to show you how this works. So 8th note only. But then I can put in some interest. right, so you get the idea on that. And that really tells you, so your ear's all of a sudden going to hear the right notes that you need to play on this thing if you want to start making some melodic changes. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do then is I'm going to put some phrasing into it. It's not going to make it all that much more interesting, but it'll give you a little bit more interest on it. So let's do this with a little bit of phrasing. All right, so you get the idea with that. Now we added some phrasing in. Okay, now we're going to make this a little bit more interesting. So we're going to start going from scale to scale on this thing. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make it easy and then a little bit more complex. So the first scale that you're going to use is a scale that everybody wants to use, which is your pentatonic. So you all know that scale. And then when I go to this F sharp chord, I'm going to just do arpeggio notes only. So only arpeggio notes for it, and this is how this is going to sound. And on this pentatonic, you can do anything you want on the pentatonic. So you can bend, you can phrase, you can do anything you want, but only pentatonic notes and only chord tones for the F sharp. Here we go. So now you're getting the idea, and now all of a sudden it's starting to sound a little bit more like real melodies. Now I'm not really phrasing, I'm limiting all my stuff, but now I'm going to change things up a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit more depth to this, and I'm going to go on this, I'm going to use a scale that you might not know, but this is a really good scale to know. It's called the dominant pentatonic scale. So I'm going to fill this F sharp. I'm going to add in, first of all, the note B. Which actually let's just do that one for now. So that's a hexatonic scale. That's not really a hexatonic scale, but I'm adding the fourth in. So let's just do that one for a second. You'll hear that. So very cool sounding. Then we move on to the next thing, and what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to add in this E note, which incidentally, that I'm sort of making an F sharp 7. You can put that as an intermediary step, so you can do pentatonic and then F sharp 7. But in this case, I'm going to add this. The hexatonic scales. My System 7 has hexatonic scale practice that you'll learn all of your hexatonic scales. That might be the single most important scale that you'll learn on the guitar, even more important than pentatonic in my estimation for playing through pop changes. If you're just playing blues, pentatonic's your guy, but if you're playing anything with changes and pop stuff, hexatonic probably is the most important scale for you. All right, so let's run through that then. I'm going to do pentatonic into the hexatonic. Then you're hearing all of a sudden it's getting more sophisticated. More stuff is happening. It's sounding more, more like real music. But you can see I'm still really limiting myself. All right, now I'm going to add one more thing. We're talking about the hexatonics. I'm going to put a hexatonic scale. That's just a 6-note scale. It's a fancy term for a 6-note scale. Basically on your minors, if I play my minor pentatonic and I add the second degree, heard that with Carlos, the Carlos Santana type of sound. It's a scale that everybody has heard a lot, they just don't know the name of all that much. So on the B minor, I'm going to be able to do pentatonics, I'm going to be able to do my arpeggios, either my or my seventh. And then on the F sharp, I can do my arpeggio, or I can do my hexatonic. All right, and I'm going to play those. So again, everything is on play now. But if you're just learning this, I'd say just do the hexatonic and the hexatonic, or just do the pentatonic and the arpeggio or something. But limit yourself on it. So here's the. Can you hear the? All right, now I'm going to move into a little bit more sophistication with this, and this is something that the Eagles aren't going to do, but I'm going to use all of my hexatonic and all of the pentatonics and stuff, and then I'm going to use, I'll show you a trick on this. If I just take this little shape and I do, so I'm just adding a half step up on the chord tones, I get something very close to a scale that I'll show you in just 1 second. So here's that. All right, so that's just up a half step. Now, if I add my seventh note in there, I end up with a scale, seventh and the sixth. You might recognize that. That's the harmonic minor scale. Which, incidentally, again, that's in I think it's in System 9. And not to keep selling that, but scales are important. They actually do make an impact on your playing. So if you want to learn those scales, that's a great resource for you. Okay, so now I'm going to add in this harmonic minor into this. I'm going to start it again from the top just to make this go a little better. So there you have like fairly sophisticated harmonic language, and then when you get to that point, then you start trying to make little melodies, and you saw me, and it's probably just because I know the original, so I didn't mean to do that, but I sort of fell into it, and I was, oh, there it is, and played it, so my ears sort of directed it. But you kind of need to know some of these things to play with. And what I would probably do then is if you can just do a loop or something like that, where you would just have those two chords going back and forth. And then, of course, the next step would be, you go from your A chord to your E chord. And then you take your G chord to the D chord, And then the same thing for E minor. Go to the F sharp minor, and then you start sticking a couple of them together. So you do the B minor plus the F7 and then the A and E, and that's it. And just limit yourself to those and really work those for a little bit. So as you start to do that, you'll start to hear these melodies, but you'll also see the shapes, which is really key. First, you need to be able to see the shapes and know where the right notes are. Then you start tracking down how to play your melodies and phrasing and stuff like that. And then you'll really start to have an idea of how to really play through more complicated changes in popular music. So anyhow, I hope that gives you a couple of good ideas, and hopefully that'll impact your playing in some small way. So till next time, God bless.